Aloha everybody, my name is Paula. Welcome back to my channel. I do coaching for folks with CPTSD, complex trauma, or PTSD. I have had the extreme joy of experiencing both in my lifetime. If you're interested in my coaching, I'll put all the links and info down below. Today is all about the rage and then guilt, shame cycle that gets experienced by a lot of people with any form of PTSD or CPTSD. So let's get into it. So I'm really trying to choose my words carefully here. I'm not a big stickler for language, but I want to emphasize some key differences. I did not use the word anger because anger is awesome. Anger is potent, powerful. In its purest form, anger feels relieving, centering, grounding, and can actually make relationships between two or more people, actually just even in one person's inner world, so solid and so good and so grounded. I freaking love healthy anger. However, rage, leaky anger, however you want to think of this one, that's something that a lot of us, I bet, are more acclimatized to, and we think this is anger, but actually it's just shitty, unconscious leaking of personal power. It hurts people, it hurts ourselves. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Rage feels terrifying. Rage is an energetic overstep of everyone's boundaries. It hurts the person that is coming out of. It fries their system. The term blind rage exists for a reason. It is brutal. It deeply can hurt other people around you, whether that be because you're actively insulting someone or someone's insulting you. Like, being on the receiving end of this stuff, your nervous system doesn't forget that. A lot of us will be afraid of anger for so much of our lives because we think rage is anger. We remember feeling so threatened by that stuff. If we experienced it, especially when we were young kids, and we were taking it in a pre-verbal state of being when we were super young. So it's scary. It gets us violent too. Like, this is, people like throwing plates. This is people killing for love. Love. Definitely in quotes there. This is people betraying each other, calling each other names. Rage is the great war maker. So, rage comes from trauma. 100% it is a wound expressing itself really messily. And it is screaming out for some pair of conscious eyes to see it and to step in and say, hey, this ain't the way. So if you're somebody who experiences rage, and you might have fits that last quite a while, and then snap back to your senses. Some of us only have, like one sentence comes out of our mouth, and it's kind of sassy. And then as soon as we're done speaking the sentence, we're like, oh my god, that was not like me. I should not have said that. I am really sorry. But we still will enter, to whatever degree, some kind of what the fuck stage after we express rage. Some of us will go into a really deep shame cycle, guilt cycle, like saying like, why did I do that? I should not have done that. And shame gets villainized a lot, I feel, because it's just so fucking hard to handle. But shame is a truth teller. And a lot of folks I coach don't like to hear that. But shame's coming out and saying like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that, because your body's trying to tell you the same thing. It doesn't want to do rage anymore. So shame exists because it's a really strong, unignorable signpost from your inner world that's trying to say, hey, please not like this. Hey, we're not having a good time. And of course, energetically, we know deep down, our relationships aren't having a good time either. This frickin' needs to stop. Shame feels as uncomfortable as it does because it wants our attention now. Please now. So pay attention to your shame and where it shows up and what it follows. And so a lot of times, it follows rage. So I want to give you guys more context as to what is happening here. What really is blind rage? Blind rage is a buildup of stress, emotional stress and emotional repression, suppression, all of the pressions. Think of yourself, think of your nervous system as like a carpet, just collecting information over time, just like a carpet collects static electricity. Complex trauma specifically leaves us, well, and also PTSD actually, it leaves us with a buildup of emotional stress, unexpressed emotionality in our nervous systems, and without necessarily knowing it, because it might hurt us a lot to realize how much is in here, we are up to here capacity-wise most of the time when we're living with unrealized trauma. We are almost constantly at the brink of overflow. It's a terrible state of being to live in, and it's also a really deceptive one because until you realize that it's happening to you, you don't really even have a read on how difficult it is to get through the day in this state. It's crazy. So, don't take the rage literally. Instead, see it as truth about how hard your body is fighting, because your body really believes that you need to be in this much defense all the time. Your body's really this afraid. Some unconscious, maybe even subconscious part of you is really, truly this fucking afraid and has this much armor on and is this ready to cut someone you love for the sake of preserving your state of being. You really are this scared. This is the simple message, and I'm really trying to boil down the message so that it applies to all of your expressions of rage in your whole life. It's never really about the dishes, or the laundry, or the mess in the house. You might be so convinced that it is. And if people would just act different and clean up different and be different, you wouldn't have this stuff. And yes, you're, half right in the sense that you might find it easier to communicate with people, but at the end of the day, I don't think many of us are going to be on our deathbeds thinking like, I was absolutely correct in having a terrible time with that person because they constantly left socks on the floor. Like this stuff, when we're really in a grounded place, looking at our lives with perspective, none of us are actually this worried about preserving a home in the quote-unquote right way. None of this stuff should actually get us up here bubbling over. We are fucking stressed. We are overstimulated. We are at capacity. We are overwhelmed. We need to be soothed. And guess who needs to soothe us? Us. You first. So not just you. It's not just you that has to do all the work. You don't have to heal alone. But what I definitely want for any of you guys out here who experience a rage and then a guilt cycle on the regular, take it seriously. There is a lot of stress your body is under, and your inner world wants to start having you pick up the phone. All of these expressions of you raging out is your inner world getting on the phone and saying, bring, bring, hello, is anyone noticing me? If you're into inner child work, think of it as your inner child, and she is literally on the phone and she is screaming, where is my mom? And if her mom is constantly caught up in the dishes and the little things, you're never answering the phone for real. You're never getting to the root of it and letting all of these repressed emotions come out in a safe place. So, there's a combination of things here that you can do for yourself in order to start scratching the surface of what's really going on in your inner world. There's the more rational approach, which doesn't have so much to do with digging around in your past selves and finding out the whys, although I think to an extent that stuff is valuable, so that will be my kind of second option here. But from a logical point of view, please slow yourself down more often. I think if you watch a lot of my videos, or if you come over to my Instagram, which I'll also link down below, I restate this advice like a freaking broken record, and that's because I really do want it to be this simple. You are processing too much information all the time, and your brain's going crazy fast, and it's just dragging a poor, tired, exhausted body behind it like a body bag. It's up to you to take care of this. No one else can do this for you. So this doesn't mean that you have to have a complete lifestyle overhaul and you have to like go to France for 6 months and do nothing. That honestly, if I could prescribe that to everyone, if everyone had the same level of privilege and accessibility, I would want that for everybody. But metaphorically, I want you to start bringing these moments into your life as much as you humanly can. So, if you have a lot of tasks to do them at half the speed. If your brain is saying, I already don't have any time to do them at the speed I do, that's a symptom. I want you to slow it down, no matter how loud it screams at you. For real, like stand up as a presence in your own inner world and say, no, we're not doing it this way. We are trying a new way. Whew. And honestly, even just doing that for yourself, kind of inside your mind, taking charge and just being like, no, I'm putting faith in a new way. That can trigger a lot of emotion. And so lean into that stuff too. That stuff is good. You are doing the work at this point. So challenge yourself here. Challenge those old nervous system pathways and help them learn a new, slower way, a softer way of being. So really, do things at half the speed. Breathe a little deeper. Take those deep breaths. The most effective thing I can ever give to anyone, oh my gosh, I learned this from someone on YouTube as well. She's really great at doing vagus nerve resets. Suki Baxter. This one, thank you Suki, you taught me this one and I use it a lot throughout the day. Put your hands together at the nape of your neck. Just take your eyes over to your 3 o'clock. For any time between 30 seconds and 90 seconds. Keeping your head straight, but your eyes are traveling to your 3 o'clock. Stay here until you feel a yawn, a naturally deeper breath, or a sigh. Do the same to your 9 o'clock. Whenever you feel the sigh come up, the yawn, your vagus nerve is finally slowing down. Do these little things for yourself. You do not have to go to the south of France to do this for 6 months. Teach yourself that a slower way can actually coexist alongside your current lifestyle. Your present can feel safer for you. So that's the logical way. The expressive way is finding yourself like a nice cozy space, giving yourself like a good chunk of time. And whatever form of yourself comes to mind when I ask this next question, let that be the part of you that comes up. But I want to know what part of you is trying to send you a message through this rage. You might see a very young version of you, you might see a teenage version, you might see an adult version, you might also see another person who you want to say something to, or they have a message for you. Any of these kind of imaginative ways of accessing your inner world, these are all just gateways. These imaginings are just gateways in. Ways that we get to start expressing ourselves in little tiny chunks. A little bit of safety at a time. But really hear the message there. Spend a moment. Maybe it'll be something really simple, and that's actually what I'm looking for. I want it to be something simple like, I'm really tired. Whew. I'm exhausted. I'm fucking sad. The world is hard. It's been a hard 3 years. It's been a hard many years before that. Let yourself feel that undistracted for as long as you can stand. And then when you've done it as long as you can stand, do it for 5 more minutes. And keep visiting yourself. There are so many other ways. I would waste your entire life giving you more methods in here. But these are some examples. And the principle is you've got to start visiting yourself. You can't keep running from these expressions, these unconscious expressions, things like unconscious rage. And there's more forms of this. These are very old, compounded emotions trying to come out. Let that be the lesson learned. You've got a lot more in you than maybe you've ever given credit to. Especially when I hear that someone is relatively emotionless except for rage outbursts, I'm like, oh, they're not emotionless. They've been feeling so much for so long, they don't even know how to start. So, all information is some kind of information about your inner world. It's time to start listening. That's the main message here. And the shame's got a lot to say to you as well. It's saying, not like this, not anymore. So please, please give yourself the gift of a softer way. If you guys have any questions about anything I just said, or comments, or even just ways that you have found to soothe your own rage, to get into the heart of that triggered trauma response, please let me know in the comments, because what's worked for you will most likely help another human being. And if you guys have more questions about how to tend this part of you, again, let me know, and I'll be sure to reply to you as soon as I can down in the comments below. And again, I'll list my coaching. I do one-on-one coaching for folks with CPTSD. I work with many, many people who experience all of this kind of stuff, these kind of like snappy nervous systems. And I've got it myself, so I've got first-hand experience. So if you would like to read more about what I do, then that will be down there for you as well. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys really soon.